Sometimes we need to take the good with the bad. Miami Hurricanes Live, a 77th edition with Cam Underwood from State of the U here on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. This has been typically our spot for the past several months, but keep in mind, schedules run amok and change each and every week. So just lock it in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. That way you know when we go live. Cam, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Just enjoying a nice Saturday morning here. Preview to the remix for all of those who are watching and or listening. I am personally taking a couple of weeks off from podcasting. And I mean, I'm going to pre-write some blogs and everything, but got my birthday coming up on August the 17th, the 39th annual commemoration of the most awesome day in the history of the world, and whatnot. So I'm taking some PTO from the secret day job and everything, and I was to take some PTO from this. So I hope that you enjoy this today and everything. And I personally will check back in with you guys in maybe a couple, 3 weeks. I know that Mark will be here and have somebody else keeping the chair warm and everything. But I just want to let you guys know that nothing is wrong. Everything is fine. This is completely and totally planned, and I'm letting you know from now.
We hope to have somebody to keep the chair warm, but of course, we're here delivering college football information, insight, and analysis every day. And Canes fans, you get in abundance. So hopefully, as I state each and every week with my call to action, you appreciate this, and maybe you'll appreciate it in 3 weeks even more. All right, much to get to, and I said off the top, the good with the bad. So it's been a floodgates of good in recent weeks with top commitments for 2021. This week, we've got another one, of course, that we much anticipated, the August 6th commitment of Leonard Taylor, but also a downer with Greg Rousseau opting out for 2020, Cam.
Yeah. So we'll just tackle all the recruiting topics up top, and we'll get back to Rousseau. But yeah, Leonard Taylor picked Miami over Florida, which was what everybody had expected. It was pretty well known. Florida fans started to kind of cop pleas and things like that on social media and everything. They tried to kind of hedge their bets. Oh, well, he's a defensive end and he's not, whatever. Like, well, the Palmetto guys aren't even that good. When a couple months ago, the tenor of their conversation was completely different, things like that. But I mean, regardless of what they say, it's a big get for Miami. I mean, he's number 2 in as a defensive tackle in the country in the 247 composite, in the 247 proprietary rankings, like that they do as their site, not the composite. He's the number 1 defensive tackle, number 2 player in the state of Florida behind James Williams, number 4 overall in the class. Like, it's such rarefied air to get a player like Leonard Taylor in a class ever, let alone just this year when you're stacking guys on top of guys, because James Williams is already committed in this class. You got a couple other guys from Palmetto and defensive tackle Savion Collins, who's like 6'4", 320. Brashard Smith just committed the week before as a slot receiver, dynamic offensive weapon athlete. So just the roll keeps going for Miami Hurricanes recruiting. And it's I mean, again, when this is a thing that I've talked about a lot. The closer to the ball that you get, the bigger of players that you have, but the more scarce those players are, especially here locally when, mostly we have speed guys, edge guys to the line, maybe a defensive end, some linebackers, and your skill guys on offense and defense. But to get a guy, who lines up as a 3 technique, right there in the interior of the line, you have a guy like that. It's just a big get. And, everybody wanted Leonard Taylor. And eventually he whittled down his list and everything and decided to stay home and play at Miami. And that's just really great. It's really a great job recruiting by everybody. Todd Stroud, the veteran defensive line coach, gets yeoman's work and credit for that one, and getting him to commit to Miami. So that's a big get, and that's great. Obviously for moving forward and just stacking this class and stacking talent on top of talent. And a lot of these elite guys from the local area deciding to stay local and play at Miami as opposed to going elsewhere. Now, there are some guys who are going to go elsewhere. Marcus Tate from U School, still going to go to Clemson. What's his name? Ja'Cory Brooks from Booker T, still going to go to Alabama as a wide receiver. You're not going to get everybody, but this is what I'm talking about getting your share and getting the guys that you need. Because as good as Ja'Cory Brooks as a wide receiver is. He's bigger, like physically. He's like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". So he's a bigger physical guy than those other guys who went to Alabama, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Grandpa Ridley. He's a bigger physical guy than those guys. But you have some really great receivers in this class still. So it's not a one-to-one replacement, but you have the requisite kind of talent in the wide receiver commits, that being Romello Brinson, Brashard Smith, and Jacoby George. You have the requisite skill that it mitigates that loss, where it's almost a peer level replacement in those three guys. But if you were to lose, per se, like a Leonard Taylor, there's really no kind of analogous kind of player there, but you get that guy. So you're getting a lot from the top of the crew, of the crop, from the top of the list, which is what you want to get happening. On the flip side, Miami did process out Ja'Cory Hammett, outside linebacker, edge rusher from Miami Northwestern. He then flipped to West Virginia. And, obviously West Virginia fans are talking stuff, obviously Florida fans, because, we beat them head to head many times in a row about, like, oh, Miami, lost a battle to West Virginia. I'm here to tell you that it was not a battle that was lost. We decided to go in a different direction. And let that be known to the young gentleman. And he found a good spot. Look, I worked at Miramar for 11 years. You know all the players that we sent to Morgantown from Miramar, Florida. I know people who've gone there. I know people who've played there. Like, it's a good spot. It's not a Middle Tennessee State. You know what I mean? It's not a also ran. It's not a whichever one of the MAC schools is the worst, Bowling Green or whomever. It wasn't like he went there. He's still going to a Power 5 school and a team that actually, can compete for 8, 9, 10 wins. And I think that that's a really good spot for him. But what it did for Miami is it opened up a scholarship slot, maybe for a higher caliber recruit and everything. You still got 4 guys from Northwestern committed in this class as well. And it's not there's no hatred. There's no animus. Sometimes you have to make a choice. And this is what I keep talking about with, people were saying, for example, in the previous weeks of talking recruiting, people said, we need Keith Brown as a slot receiver kind of, option. I said, great. But we have Brashard Smith. And if we're going to take Keith Brown, who are you knocking off this list? And unfortunately, it seems in the case of Ja'Cory Hammett, Miami made the choice that in the pursuit of whomever they're pursuing, he was the guy that they were going to separate their ways with. And it happens. But, like I said, no ill will to the man at all. I know that he's going to go up to Morgantown and hope that he has a great career, hits all of his academic and athletic goals and aspirations, and goes as far as the game of football will let him go. So if you expected me to come in here and trash the kid, that's just not something that I'm ever going to do. But I mean, the point of fact is, yes, Miami went in a different direction, and then Ja'Cory Hammett also went in a different direction, and he found a home in Morgantown, West Virginia, and I wish him the best.
I think we need to consider from time to time as fans, and I will make reminders of this from time to time, that to play at that level, regardless of the school or university, even if they win 2 or 3 games a year, even if it's Rutgers, even if it's Kansas, if you look at the mass of volume of people out there playing high school football that can reach that level of play, to play Power 5, to play on TV every week, to play at that level, regardless of the success in the wins and loss column, it takes a tremendous athlete to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, it does. What's the stat? It's like 3% of high school football athletes get scholarships to play college football, or it might be less than 3%. And then it's like 1/3% of the college athletes, get drafted wherever they get drafted. I mean, it's rarefied air. And, again, this is a guy who could play at Miami if Miami wanted to go in that direction. Miami chose to go in a different direction. And he still found, a worthy requisite, a school for him, a landing place, and again, I wish him all the best, because I've seen West Virginia do great things for other people that I've known and met and had interactions with in my personal life, just because of, my prior professional situation. So, I get that. Yeah, the other one, the big one, Gregory Rousseau opting out. It makes sense completely. It did come a little bit as a shock, just in the timing, because Manny Diaz happened to have been giving his a Zoom meeting presser, about, okay, well, it was the day before practice started. Practice started yesterday, by the way, fall camp. Just going to throw that out there. I know that it's kind of a crazy time, but yeah, the day before that, Manny Diaz was giving his a Zoom meeting, press conference, and things like that, and he had literally just not too far in front of that said, I think all of our guys are going to be here. Nobody's told me that they're opting out. Like when we hit the field tomorrow, and he gets a text message, and he looks, and they have the screenshots of it. It's kind of funny, but he gets a text and he looks down, and his face drops. And then he comes back and it's like, well, Gregory Rousseau actually just texted me that he's opting out of the season and, things like that. And it's a big loss. He's one of the best players on the team. Obviously 15 and a half sacks as a redshirt freshman. Just a dynamic player at 6'7", 260 as an edge rusher. Obviously he can beat you on the edge, as you saw against Florida State. You twist him inside against these offensive guards and centers who maybe are not as adept at pass blocking as the tackles. And I mean, he had 4 sacks in that game alone against Florida State. But yeah, Gregory Rousseau is going to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, and people are saying, oh, maybe he needs to show more on film. But, there's all these mock drafts that have him, 3rd, 5th, 12th, 11th, 6th, like just top 15. Like, it's really it's a thing where and I know that, obviously the colloquialism in recruiting is, oh, you make a business decision for going to whatever school. This is a literal business decision for Gregory Rousseau. It just is. And it is tough because he's one of the best players on the team. I don't know what's going on with Paul Scoop. I know who that person is. I don't know anything, so I can't answer that. But getting back to Gregory Rousseau, yeah, he has to make a decision what's best for him and his family. His mother is an ER COVID nurse and everything, and he's, she's on the front lines all the time. And he made mention that he was going to help them in some kind of a way. And I mean, that could maybe be during this time in the fall. And obviously, if you're a first-round draft pick and you get this 8-figure guaranteed salary or contract, 2 commas with 2 digits in front of it, look, man, you got to do what you got to do. And that's the kind of money that, if you use it right, can change the financial path of your family for generations. And that's what people talk about. That's why, these guys, like I come from the mud and I can't go back. These guys from the mud, these guys from the city in Miami, appreciate the happy birthday wish. But like they, can't go back is the thing that Bomani Jones talks about with some of these basketball players. Like, they go through the D League and they go through all this stuff. Look, because I can't go back. Like, it's tough, man, and he has this unique physicality, and he has this incredible talent. And people have already seen it and been evaluating it. I've seen just tons of NFL draft guys. You got Matt Bowen, you got Matt Miller, you got Daniel Jeremiah, you got other guys who make a living as draft analysts and player evaluators, and they're all just saying all these glowing things about Gregory Rousseau. The only thing that could happen is he can get hurt or something, or anything with COVID, and that could just be negative for him. And that's what he is thinking as well. So it's a tough decision, obviously, for the Hurricanes. So you take him off of the roster. I mean, on the roster on scholarship, but he's not going to play this year. So that does change things. To replace him back in the number 15 jersey, which he wore in high school and also when he started out at UCLA, is Jalen Phillips, the number 1 overall recruit a few years ago in 2017, I believe that was, in America. And he's already, and we already saw it. He's put it up on social media. He was wearing it at practice yesterday. He's like, cool, look, I get it. I was going to wear 95, and I was fine with that. But I'm saying if 15 is available, and y'all know that I always wore 15, you know what I mean? Let me get that. So then he got it. And he's a guy who's, 6'6", 260, almost 270. Jalen Phillips, or 6'5", 6'6", 265, 270. And during their speed testing, this is a guy who hit 22 miles an hour on sprints. What? At that size? Though that's almost touching Tyreek Hill kind of speed. You know what I mean? 22 miles an hour on a sprint is ridiculous speed. And you got this mountain of a man doing that, he is going to be in there. Jafari Harvey, is another guy who everybody is saying might be the most athletic guy out of any of those guys at defensive end. And you're talking about a Jalen Phillips at 6'6", 260 something, hitting 22 miles an hour on sprints. You got Gregory Rousseau, who's 6'7" with a 7'3" wingspan, and he had 15 and a half sacks as a redshirt freshman. You got Quincy Roche, who's the current AAC reigning Defensive Player of the Year when he was at Temple with 13 and a half sacks last year. And Jafari Harvey might be more athletic than these three athletic guys who are known because of their athleticism. And then you have these younger guys as well. Cameron Williams, great first name. Hollywood Chaminade Madonna. So if you're going back, you're thinking, okay, we have a couple guys from Chaminade committed. Here's another one who's already on the roster. He's 6'5", 245 with, a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan. Boom, there goes that guy. You've just signed a bunch of defensive ends in this last class, maybe a Chance Williams, maybe a Quentin Williams. These guys, there are numbers there. But to obviously say any of those guys are going to come in and have the impact of Rousseau right now, especially the freshman guys, I think that that's a bridge too far. But what I will say is you automatically elevate Jalen Phillips to the number one on the other side across from Quincy Roche. That's how you replace him, boom, like that. And I know that Gregory Rousseau was a 3-star recruit. We've talked about that. He shouldn't have been, but his performance was All-American. But then you take a number 1 overall 5-star recruit, you put him with a reigning defensive player of the year. Then you have Jafari Harvey right behind him, and you work in some of these other guys as well. There are ways to replace a Gregory Rousseau, at least in the aggregate, not on the 1-for-1, but as a group, I think that can, even with it maybe still being a little bit of a step down, just because of what Gregory Rousseau did and can do. I would say that's where you're going to start with it. Jalen Phillips starts opposite Quincy Roche. Jafari Harvey gets to a really great chance to have a Gregory Rousseau or who was the one before? Jonathan Garvin, when he was just coming in off the bench and he was wreaking havoc. Maybe Jafari Harvey is that guy is your number 3 defensive end, and there's other guys as well.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the staff for Miami football coverage as the Canes are on the practice field, and we are just weeks away from college football and the opener against UAB. The ACC schedule is out. We will get to that in just a second. If I'm able to dive back real quickly on the live chat, I've been amused by the recent post by my guy Mark Thibodeau. So this guy just showed up a few weeks ago, and you can appreciate this camp. He's in Ann Arbor, and he doesn't let a post go by where he doesn't call me the enemy. But most males that are worth their own self-esteem, of course, would rather be respected than loved. So if he tells me I know my football, I'll take that. And he's here to talk football and provide his comments and contributions on a regular basis. Thank you, Mark, for joining the Miami chat as a Michigan fan.
And man, hey, look, I grew up as a Michigan fan. I have friends and family who went to and attended Michigan. When I evacuated for the hurricane a couple of years ago, I went to Michigan Air Force wearing my orange Canes jersey, which was not a favorite of a friend, the dad of a good friend of mine. Tony Scott Sr. Tony Scott was not happy that I was wearing my orange. I said whatever. So I'm with that. Couple just quick things from the chat. Brandon Cleveland, 2022 defensive tackle, did commit to Miami. He's the cousin of Tyree Cleveland, who went to Florida but made the good decision to come to Miami. So you're stacking already a blue chip defensive tackle in the next class on top of the 2 you already have in this class, on top of the 3 that you got the class before. 3 pretty good ones who are going to be in the rotation this year, who we signed 2 years ago, and we didn't sign any defensive tackles last year because we just got 3 the year before. So you're stacking talent on top of talent on top of talent. That's a really great thing. The Clemson fan in here, it's the North Carolina fan. I forget his name, but I always see him in here, and I always appreciate
Luke Walker.
Luke Walker, that's right. Luke Walker asks, how close does the Clemson game have to be for Miami to be happy? Yeah, to be happy about it. I just want it to be a competitive game, and that could take many different looks. Obviously I want Miami to win. I'm not going to sit here and just from, August the 8th say, oh, yeah, moral victories. No. I want an actual victory. Let that be known from now. But more than that, I do also want the moral victory kind of psychological thing of competing with them because it's been 93-3 combined, score aggregate over the last 2 times we played them. I know that 58-0. That was Al Golden's swan song. I was there for that game. It was kind of hilarious at a point. Like in the second half, I was counting the people in the sections in the lower bowl because I could count them. It was like 8 people in this section, and then the next section 6 people, and the next section 5 people, and like literal 5 people in the 200-person seating section. So that was funny to me at a point. I mean, just because it went from being bad to just being comical. Like the only thing you could do at the point was laugh. I went to Charlotte for the ACC championship game in 2017. We got our doors blown off. Yeah, I get it. I understand. I don't want that kind of a thing to happen. And Miami could lose by, I mean, depending on if you get a garbage time touchdown, you could lose by 14 and have been a competitive game. You know what I mean? But as long as we start to, on all 3 sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams, play like Miami should play and have it be a competitive game all the way throughout, I'm with that. And look, even if you're talking about the Syracuse games with Clemson, there was a game that they lost by like 11 last year or a year before where they got a late touchdown. That was they were driving potentially for a game-winning touchdown, had a turnover, boom. I'm not going to say that 11-point loss by Clemson or by Syracuse was getting blown out because you had the ball with a chance to win. You turn it over and they run it back. Okay, cool. But as long as it's a competitive game and we are in it throughout into the fourth quarter, even if they punch us first, we punch back. It's a score here and there, that kind of a thing. That's what I'm looking for because that in and of itself will be a step forward. But again, while all that narrative is good and it's great for fans, it's going to be great for blogging and everything, I want to win. And I hope that you hear me and don't ignore that last little 2 minutes of, okay, what am I looking for as acceptable? What is acceptable and what I want are 2 different things. I will accept a close loss. I will accept something that looks like we're competing on the field. I want to win.
Yeah, so I pretty much take the same approach with my teams. You have to know who you are and who you're playing. So on one hand, yes, I will finish with Cam's latter comment that, to quote a famous coach, you play to win the games. Yes, you are there to win. Even if you show up at 0-8 and they're 8-0, part of you shouldn't be happy as a competitor, as a fan, a competitive fan, unless your team wins the game. But let's also understand where your program is. You're whomever, and you're playing whomever, and they're a measuring stick. And you are wherever you are in your development, hopefully as a program, and you're wanting to see how good you are at this point versus them, understanding that you're probably not going to win. Now, for Miami, do they have hope and expectation to win that game? Absolutely, they do. There have been lesser teams that have competed with and a couple times beaten Clemson in their great 5-year run here. Mm-hmm. Are the probabilities stating that they will? If they were able to play 100 times, would they win more than 50 times? No. Mm-hmm. But could they win 30? Yes. Would they win 15? I don't know. It's probably somewhere in that range, 15 to 35 times. So they could win the game on a given Saturday. And whatever the date is, you probably whatever the date is, Miami could win the game. But yes, we do this all the time on here, where people will automatically trash a team because they went out and lost a game by a point to a tremendous team and be like, well, they suck. They lost 28-27. Right. Well, and then I'll put it into context and say, well, my evaluation of this team is much different losing by a last-second field goal, or even in the situation that Cam just played. If it's a 2-score win by Clemson, there's going to be a lot of Miami detractors that are going to be like, yeah, they suck. They weren't as all the Canes fans said they were. But you need to watch the game. You need to put the score. You start with the score, and then you put it into context.
Right.
And if it's a 17-14 game entering the fourth quarter, and Clemson tacks on 10 or they tack on 2 touchdowns and they walk away, it's 31-14. Well, did you watch the game and evaluate the play where this was a competitive game for 45 to 50 minutes and then it got out of hand in the last 10 minutes, maybe because of depth, maybe because of a couple mistakes. When you get behind, you're throwing every down, one of those deals.
Right,
So
exactly.
evaluate your team and evaluate the game, not just.
I mean, the score is part of it, and I mean, yeah, that one would be maybe a little tough to swallow just because, you're there for 3 quarters and then, okay, like they score, 17. So then it's 34-14, like that one, but like they score, in your scenario, 17-14 going to the fourth quarter, Clemson, they get a touchdown. It's 24-14. We get a touchdown, miss the 2. So it's 24-20. They get another touchdown and we don't score after that. It's 31-20. It's a 2-score game, but it's kind of nip and tuck, but yeah, at least with that. So yeah.
So for a guy who likes to lay a dime or two on games, these scenarios come up all the time. To me, in evaluating the game and evaluating the team, there's a difference between Clemson up 17-14 entering the fourth quarter. They tack on a couple touchdowns, whether they appear to be lucky, kind of depth issue touchdowns or legitimate, drove it down Miami's throat 2 times for 80 yards, put it away, but still 17-14, 10 minutes left. That's a game. Yeah. Versus Clemson's up 31-0 at halftime. They are just cruising. Miami scores 2 touchdowns in the last 10 minutes of the game. It's 31-14.
Exactly.
All right. A lot of good stuff here. Ronan Jones, we appreciate your Super Chat contribution so much. You as well, Will Sky, your Super Chat contributions and Ronan's comment here. Sad to see Greg go, but wish him all the best at the next level. It's time for Miami now to follow up a great recruiting with on-field results. Keep up the great work, Mark and Cam. Go Canes from Ireland. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Jafari Harvey's name was mentioned a few times in this live chat and also some discussions yesterday. Your prospects about him and other defensive ends, with Phillips being obviously the headliner to fill in automatically and be a star, potentially 15 sacks. Let's not hold him to that standard. He could have a tremendous campaign, and obviously they're playing less games too. But in regards to obviously the depth and a guy that could be play a role and make an impact at times, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Quincy Roche and Jalen Phillips are not going to be your starting defensive ends. Jafari Harvey coming in as your number 3 off the bench. He's going to be a guy that's going to play a lot. And again, I do have high expectations for him just because of just who he is and his recruiting caliber and everything. So that's another guy. Sorry, I had to open up the roster really quickly. Again, in the same class as Jafari Harvey, Cameron Williams. He's a guy who has just immense physical potential as well as defensive end. Jason Blissett, I don't know where he's playing. I don't know if he's playing inside or outside. There was talk that he had moved from defensive tackle to defensive end. And that's a guy who maybe could get some reps also. And then you did bring in 3 true freshmen this past recruiting cycle in Chance Williams, Elijah Roberts, and Quentin Williams. The Williams boys, not related. None of them are related. Quentin, Chance, or Cam, all last name Williams, all play defensive end. None of them related. Weird. But the younger ones, I think it'll take a real big effort for them to see the field this year. Of them, I would say Chance probably has the better ability just because of his physicality, because Quentin Williams is a little bit shorter. So he's a little bit more of a tweener, whereas Chance Williams is more of your stereotypical 6'4", 245 defensive end. And Elijah Roberts, I think he could play end, or he could be that kind of athletic defensive tackle a la RJ McIntosh, which is the comparison that we made, because he was like 6'3", 275 in high school. And I mean, that's before you really get on a nutrition program. That's before anything. So you're a cheeseburger away from 290, basically, that size, which is a great size for a defensive tackle. You know what I mean? So I think that he's probably trending towards going inside, but maybe he slims down and trims down and stays outside. We'll see. But yeah, those are the guys. But I mean, yeah, it's really going to be the trio of Jalen Phillips, Quincy Roche, and Jafari Harvey, and then whoever slots in behind them.
Let me clean up a few administrative notes here. So, folks, if I bypass your question, it means one of two things. I honestly missed it, which is probably about a 1% chance because I'm going comment by comment by comment by comment. Most likely it's because Cam has addressed it a million times and most likely addressed it here. So I've passed about 8 to 10 comments that he has already addressed here. You must have joined the live stream 10 or 15 minutes late. Obviously, the analysis of Leonard Taylor was right out of the gate. So wait for the video to post and you can go back and grab that. Also, Terrence Lewis, he addressed at length last week and certainly can if you'd like right now.
Well, yeah, again, Terrence Lewis has the physical ability to play here. I don't necessarily think that he's a cultural fit for a variety of reasons. There's some talk about him wanting in. There's some talk about the reasons why he wants to want in, depending on who he knows and has played with and things like that. Some of his friends, probably obviously are committed because, good players know good players. And these guys have transferred to other places. They played 7-on-7, Optimus Ball, things like that. So, if you have this swath of guys from South Florida who are committed here and, he's back at Miami Northwestern, Terrence Lewis is. That means now, okay, with Ja'Cory Hammett, being dropped / flipping, you still have 4 of your teammates in the same locker room committed to Miami and a 5th one who was, and probably another couple in future classes who will be. You know what I mean? So in your own locker room, you're surrounded by guys who are committed to Miami. You're friends with these other elite guys who you played other, whatever or wherever that who are committed to Miami. There's reasons why he would want in. I just don't want him. I just don't. I mean, the comparison that I've heard and I've made is like a Willie Williams or a Vontaze Burfict. Super duper talented, super incredibly talented. But all the other stuff, I just don't think that that's a thing that I want to do for me. And I said it before, when I was a choir teacher, I would invariably take the more talented singers with, like, even if they didn't have the training, just had this God-given voice. And I would say, give me the best ones, even if they're a behavioral problem, even if they're always fighting, even if they're one to try to cuss at me in the class, all the other stuff, I'm willing to take it. And I've done some of that stuff. And at sometimes after that, I said, you know what? You are super talented. I know that you want to be in Varsity Singers. I know that you want to go on the Atlanta trip, but no, I'm not going to do it because I would rather because I went to the one side where I had the talent with all the baggage and you try to manage that. And it's just like, you know what? I would rather have a little bit less talent with somebody who really wants to be here and is a good cultural fit. And I think that's going to make everybody better. The whole organization, the whole choir, the whole everything. And I think that translates in team sports. And I always taught, I was an athlete my entire life, all the same kind of things. I always said, chorus is a team sport. Football is obviously a team sport. So the analogy, I know people are like, oh, you're talking about chorus again. Yeah, I did it professionally for a long time. Blah, whatever. You'll deal with it. But the analogy is that same person with the talent, the other issues could then infect and affect the whole locker room, the whole culture of what you're building. So with the guys that we have and some of the guys that we're going after, even though they might be a little bit less talented, less athletically gifted and things like that, I would rather have those guys who are a cultural and a social fit in the program and for what we're doing corporately in that kind of a way than try to have this very talented anomaly and rein them in. Because I've seen that movie. I don't want to do it. Not with this kid and not in this class, with all due respect.
Folks, I ask that you make 3 considerations here. First of all, please like the video, whether you like Miami or not. We've got a number of college football fan bases in here, but you're obviously enjoying the content, the information, and the discussion there in the live chat. Please like the video. Consider the super chat as an option as well. And number 3, you all, or most of you, have social media influences that Cam and I don't have, and a number of people that whether personally or, again, on social media, that have no idea we exist. Please get the videos out there, get the live streams out there, let people know that we're here each and every week. And, again, Cam's going to take a 2-week hiatus. Don't be alarmed. He'll be back. We'll be back. And he's going to go have himself a good time and not worry about what's going on here. And then he'll come back strong, refreshed, ready to go, as he typically is anyway. Mohammed Hussein is asking both of us to whether we've altered our expectations on Miami football with the loss of Rousseau. I will say that I, being kind of a numbers guy, a probability type guy, think, yes, enormous talent, one of the very best at his position, maybe the best in the country. But you got to look at the scope of the number of games played. Are we playing baseball for 162 games and you lose Mike Trout? Well, he could mean 8 games. Make an estimation. But depending on how the games go, yeah, we don't know if Miami loses to North Carolina by 3 points, if Greg Rousseau would have come off the edge and had a strip sack with 50 seconds left in the game. We don't know. But you kind of alter it and balance it out in regards to the impact of the player. Yeah, he could mean a game. Probability is that he won't mean a full game. But again, we're talking about a limited number of games, 11. So I'm not going to automatically say, well, I was projecting Miami to go 8-3. Now I'm going to go 7-4 because Greg Rousseau's absent.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do the same thing either. I mean, could he be... if you're taking a baseball stance, like Mark was talking about, like a wins above replacement kind of a thing, like how valuable is Gregory Rousseau as opposed to a Jalen Phillips, if you're going 1-to-1, yeah, I'd say maybe over the course of the season, a game, but it's like 0.2 of a game here and 1/10 of a game there. So like, are those couple of plays in this game, it's things like that. So yeah, I'm not going to depress the over under or whatever my expectation was by a full game, but suffice it to say that, yeah, Gregory Rousseau not being on the roster is a large challenge to overcome. But again, that's the nature of college athletics anyway, because you always have guys coming into the program and always have guys leaving the program just because of the nature of, chronology and eligibility.
If somebody out there has nothing better to do, take all of Miami's games last year, rewatch them, watch Greg Rousseau's impact, and then try to take the average player and see, oh, Rousseau made a sack there. Yeah, Miami was already up 3 touchdowns. That didn't really have an impact on the result of the game. And, measure it all out, and you'll have some kind of an idea.
Well, there's some of that, but also like a couple of times, like, because he has this 19-foot wingspan, he was the one who got a hand on somebody's leg to trip him up, and there's 2 other guys there. You know what I mean? Like, and it could have been, okay, yeah, they're a half step slower. Could the ball have come out, in that half step, or like things like that? Or like, is it a thing where, okay, it could have just been anyone? I mean, yeah, it's a fluid situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's impossible to measure. You make your calculation. Exactly. I've left Martin's comment up here. Martin joins us on a regular basis. Left him his comment up here because he is respecting Greg Rousseau's decision, but he thinks Coach Manny Diaz deserved a face-to-face meeting instead of a text message in the middle of a press conference.
I can see that point. Absolutely. If that's how you feel about it. I mean, I think that I don't even know, because I don't know the backstory. I don't know if Gregory Rousseau was watching it and heard Manny Diaz make that statement that nobody's opting out and decided that was it. You know what I mean? Like, no, Jordan Bowman, he's not sick. Gregory Rousseau does not have COVID or anything. He's stepping away to prevent that from happening. And everything. And again, a face-to-face meeting does not mean face-to-face. You know what I mean? Like, rubbing heads or, foreheads against each other like you're going to fight in a 50s movie or something like that. No, I mean, it's just sharing the same space. So, I mean, you could distance. Look, it could have been the 2 of them on opposite sides of the practice facility with a microphone. If you want to have face-to-face, you know what I mean? Like, that's taking the phrase a little too literally. You know what I mean? But yeah, I can see that point of him of you saying that the conversation deserved to have been had face to face as opposed to that. But I don't know all the backstory as to why the text message was sent. I don't know. So I can agree with you and also not necessarily talk to the other side of it as well.
Yeah, on those situations, we've seen with the COVID situation and also the racial unrest, a lot of stances made by college football players. And I'm an old school guy that would like to see them attack the issue and the conversation, I should say, the conversation with coaches and teammates behind closed doors. But I'm an old school kind of guy. Things are done a little bit differently these days, for one thing. Number 2, I try to hold and reserve my full response to those kind of situations, as Cam just did, when you don't know the entirety of the relationship and maybe other communications were made. We know part of it. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. Jalen or Jason Marshall's name has come up a number of times in regards to any update on where he's leaning.
I mean, it's Miami and Alabama really right now. I think the Miami still feels good about where things stand and everything. For me, just kind of reading the tea leaves from the outside, like I've done as a recruiting blogger for a long time, I think that a commitment sooner than later would benefit Miami in the pursuit of Jason Marshall. But again, he's everybody's All-American. He's like the number 1 or 2 defensive cornerback in this class, nationally. And he's one that everybody would like to have on their roster. And he's, again, the kind of guy that Miami has not gotten recently on the roster, especially from the pool of talent available locally. And that's not to say that there haven't been decent players, but the superstar cornerbacks recently have not picked Miami. And Jason Marshall is one of those guys, and I hope that he does. I'm not going to – Martin Dubé, I see that question of the 4 remaining spots on the class. Who do you want Miami to sign, and who do you think that they will sign? That is a really great question that I'm actually going to blog about, I think, sometime soon. So I'm going to say thank you for asking that. But with all due respect, I'm not going to answer that right now because I'll be writing something about that hopefully soon.
Mike Harley caught 38 passes last year, 3 touchdowns, 13 yards per reception, 21 receptions in 2018. Is Mike Harley a big disappointment?
No, he's not. You just wanted him maybe to flash what he flashed at St. Thomas Aquinas a little bit more. It finally took him until this past year to score his first touchdown as a collegiate player. You maybe wanted a few more of those. You maybe wanted to see him get loose on a punt return or something, even though he wasn't necessarily the punt returner. So I mean, I think that you just want to see maybe a little bit more from him, but to call him a disappointment per se, no, I don't think so. And everybody's not going to be a day one superstar. Everybody's not going to be Amon Richards with 934 yards, breaking Michael Irvin's freshman receiving record, and literally jumping over guys the moment he steps on campus. Everybody's not going to be that. And I think that Mike Harley's had a pretty good career. I think that he has, there have been some things that have been left to be desired from his performance and things like that. But I'm not going to call that a disappointment. And we've seen players recently at many positions who have been a disappointment. And though Mike Harley has not had just the uber performance that he did at St. Thomas, at Miami, I don't think that that's fallen into the realm of a disappointment.
And also consider, when I look at a wide receiver, I think what player, what position is more dependent on other positions than any position on the field, and it's wide receiver, especially when they get rated first and foremost statistically. They're dependent on the quarterback, who's dependent to a certain extent on the offensive line. What have been 2 sore spots for Miami football in the last several years? Quarterback and offensive line. So you've had quarterbacks who have maybe made some plays at times, but haven't had the offensive line support. You've also had inconsistent quarterback play, to be kind, especially in 2017 and 18. I would call it most of the time abysmal quarterback play, where the rest of the team, meaning the skill position players and the defense in particular, lifted the team to the accomplishments it enjoyed, especially in 2017. And obviously he wasn't around too much for that, but 2018 and 19, the same thing. Very inconsistent quarterback play.
Yeah, but I mean, last year he was the second leading receiver in terms of catches. Brevin Jordan had more yards on 3 fewer catches. Okay, Jeff Thomas only played 10 games and he had fewer catches than Mike Harley. D. Wiggins had 20 catches. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 more people who had 14 or more catches. So 38 catches is not crazy. You go back to 2018, okay, all the numbers were very low because the quarterback play in 2018 was openly very bad. But you have, Mike Harley had 21 catches. The only two players who had more catches than him that year were Brevin Jordan with 32, Jeff Thomas with 35, and then he had the same number of catches as Lawrence Cager and only two more than Travis Homer. And that is, Darrell Langham and DJ Dallas combined, and and D Wiggins, they combined for another 30 catches between those three guys. So he's still tied for third then. And then as a freshman, sure, he had 9 catches in 11 games. But again, Braxton Berrios in 2015, 55 catches. Chris Herndon, 40. Amon Richards in 8 games had 24, and that was, the last year that we saw Amon Richards, unfortunately. Jeff Thomas had 17 as a true freshman. Lawrence Cager had 16. Travis Homer had 18. And as that year with Mike Harley as a freshman, which one of those players is he playing in front of? You know what I mean? And he still he still had 9 catches that year and things like that. So, I mean, I get it. But everybody's not going to be that. Everybody's not going to be, Stacey Coley had great numbers. He was a freshman All-American his freshman year. You know what I mean? Amon Richards set the Miami Hurricanes freshman receiving yards record as a freshman. Everybody's not going to be that. And I mean, 9 catches, 21 and 35, progressing up the last 3 years. Sure, you might want to, again, to have seen him find the end zone before his sophomore or his junior year. You might want to have seen him as a punt returner or things like that. You might have wanted that. But I just don't see going back to 2018 or 2017 which of those players Mike Harley was going to play in front of and take those stats away from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that. So again, I think that yes, you could have maybe wanted to see more from him overall, but as a disappointment, I just disagree with that in terms of Mike Harley. I just do.
Cam, we're just going to bask in this comment for just a few seconds, and then we're going to move on to the next question for you.
You're going to bask in that one. Go ahead.
Because I receive a lot of compliments, a lot of support and so forth, as does Cam. We appreciate it. Certainly. Thank you so much. We also appreciate the trash talking, and for people that take shots at me, absolutely. That's why I'm here. We have fun with it. Hopefully you're not taking it too seriously, because I don't. When I get it wrong, when I don't make a whole lot of sense, when I'm open, obviously, to be a target based on my analysis and predictions and so forth and so on. But thank you, David, comparing me to Mike Mayock, current NFL general manager with the Oakland Raiders and former NFL Network analyst. That guy's just crazy good when it talks, when it speaks to analyzing football and football players. David, thank you so much. That's way up there. I would hope to attain that at some point, but yeah, that's way up there. Amari Daniels is the 6th rated all-purpose back in the country, top 350 player roughly, according to the 247 Sports Composite. And J Love T, our guy, J Love T, good to see you. Does not want him to get away. Texas A&M is the target right now in regards to the crystal ball predictions on 247 Sports.
Yeah, and there's one reason why. Jimbo Fisher. He's a guy who recruited Devontae Freeman to Florida State when he was there. And then, he was, connecting with Amari Daniels. Amari Daniels was at Central, and then his dad got the job at Jackson, so he went over there for a year, and then he came back to Central last year and everything. Amari Daniels can play. Amari Daniels, can fly also. He's a smaller running back, but there's some giddy up there. It's just I would, and this kind of goes to Martin Dubé's question about like who do I want in this class with these last 4 slots. There's a good argument for taking Amari Daniels. There's a very good argument for it. The real kind of thing here is twofold to me. Number one is Cam Harris leaving after this season as a true junior to go to the NFL. And 2, what is Robert Burns doing? Is he going to come back as a 5th-year senior to be the 4th string guy? Because I probably would say that he's going to be right behind. Right now I put him in 4th string behind both of the freshmen, Jalen Knighton and Donald Chaney Jr., as them being 2 and 3 or tied for 2 or whatever it is behind Cam Harris. And then you would have Robert Burns. Would he come back as a 5th-year senior to be the 4th string guy? And then you're going to already have Thad Franklin in this recruiting class. Then you're going to add Amari Daniels, so you could potentially have 6 running backs on scholarship next year. Now, if either or both Harris and Burns leave, then you're going to need 2 in this class. So yeah, I just I mean, there's a good reason, there's a good argument for it, and I can see J. Love T's point, and I don't necessarily think that he's wrong.
Miami and Florida State obviously forged one of the great rivalries in college football. We've discussed it many times here with Cam in regards to the current matchup, the 3 consecutive wins by Miami, the 7 previous by Florida State, all the historic wide rights and wide lefts, and matchups between top 5 teams of the late 80s through the 90s and into the early 2000s. Florida State, Miami, it's legendary. It's historic. We've got a Florida State show that we do each and every week on Tuesday night, typically at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And one of our media guests that I shouldn't even call him a guest, as I don't call Cam a guest. He makes this show happen. Without Cam, I don't have a Miami show here each and every week. So understand that. We've got Jason Parker on the line, who works for NBC6, joins us on a regular basis to talk Florida State football. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing good. I came dressed up this week,
I like that.
When you come into somebody else's house, I'm here in Cam's house. This is his time slot. Cam, thank you for having me. Mark, thank you for having me. But I came just a little dressed up here just for you guys.
Nice. So old Al Golden. You're welcome.
I did. I went solid. The FSU version of Al Golden. Yeah.
Exactly.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Jason, I know you've got some comments and questions to make to start a conversation in regards to the Florida State-Miami situation matchup this coming season, and I will kind of back off because you'd like to hit up Cam on some expectation talk regarding the 2 programs.
I do. Thank you very much, Mark. Cam, again, thank you for having me on this one. First of all, you guys have probably already talked about it, but I do want to get your thoughts on Miami's schedule as far as the ACC is produced. What are your thoughts as far as seeing it from this firsthand?
Yeah, no, actually, we didn't even get there. We were talking about transactional things. So there were a lot of people who were saying or asking about how do I feel about Louisville at Louisville, the second game of the year. And I'm fine with it, honestly. I mean, again, respect all opponents and fear none. And yeah, we put up a bunch of points and we're going to have to score points to win that game. It's not going to be a 14-13 kind of a game. You're going to have to put crooked numbers on the board. You're going to have to find the end zone. But it doesn't scare me or anything. Florida State week 3, that's very early, but I'll take that win before the bye week. At Clemson, coming off of a bye, it's good that we're coming off of a bye in theory. I need to see it in practice, however, because Miami got worse and worse every time that we had a bye week last year. The following game, because we had 3 of them, because we played week 0, and then we had one week 3, and then week 8. And after each one of those bye weeks, the performance was progressively worse throughout the season. So having an extra week to prepare, in theory, is good to go up against Clemson, but I need to see how that actually goes. The rest of the schedule, I think I'm fine with. Adding North Carolina State and Louisville. Yeah, it did raise the that's kind of a peer level thing, but the real thing, and I spoke with with Mark about this last week, when the list came out before the actual calendar. You add Clemson to the schedule, your schedule's harder. Just period. Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of that, but UAB, that was a team we were already going to play as a non-conference. I'm fine with that. Having the bye weeks, when are week 2 and week 4 and week 8. So you get 3 on, a bye, 3 on, then a bye, and then you play the rest of them, assuming we get all the way to the end. That would be great. And then with North Carolina, that could potentially be a game that could decide the second slot for the ACC championship game if things go a certain way. I think it's a good schedule. It is a little bit more challenging, obviously, because putting Miami and Clemson together in the regular season is an upgrade. But yeah.
If you do lose to Florida State, let's just say in week 3, and obviously you think Miami's going to win, I think Florida State's going to win. Something we've talked about on the FSU chat is Florida State being Florida State, where they lose games they shouldn't lose. Like we shouldn't have lost to Wake Forest, should have lost to Boise State, and how it sets on that. You had that same situation last year where you should have lost to Georgia Tech. You should have lost to FIU, and how that FIU loss kind of set you there. if you do lose to Florida State in that week 3 game, is there any concern from that point that Miami could start to go on a downhill slide like we've seen from Miami in the past couple seasons? Or do you think that this is a Miami team that has looked past that?
No, I think that concern is real. And obviously during, the 7 straight wins that you guys had against us, we were invariably terrible for 2 to 3 weeks after playing you guys. And I think that was just because that game is different. It has a different, just everything, the emotional buy-in, the physical connection. I mean, because teams, obviously when we play each other, we hit. And everybody knows those pads are popping from the first snap, kickoff, return, everything. And it's a thing where, during that run of 7, there were 4 or 5 games that Miami legitimately snatched defeat from the hands of victory. A couple of them, Dalvin Cook was just Dalvin Cook, and y'all had him when we didn't. I get it. But when you're that close so many times, when you have these leads in the second half so many times, that hurts. And then, unfortunately, we did not have the mental acuity to just kind of compartmentalize that. We let that Florida State loss beat us 2 and 3 and 4 times. And I mean, thankfully for me, we've not had a Florida State loss in the last few years, so we haven't had to see that kind of a thing. But if we were to lose to Florida State, I would need to see the change, And so, unfortunately, there's two factors with that. Number one, if Miami were to lose, and I don't think that we're going to, but okay, well, let's just assume for the sake of argument that we do. Miami loses to Florida State in week 3. You have a bye week, week 4. So the only thing you want to do is get on the field and go hit somebody else. But now we have a week off. And then you come off of that bye week, week 4, and you got Clemson. That's a scenario that could be tough, because then, if that were to, happen, again, I hope that Miami wins. I don't think that Miami is going to beat Clemson. So now you have 2 losses in 3 weeks, and then you got to back that up with, I have it right here.
I have my schedule.
No, and then you have Pittsburgh at home after that. And they're going to try to grind you out. They're going to try to lean on you as well. And then, okay, well, we had this emotional game in week 3, lost it for whatever reason, had this bye week in week 4, practice fast, everybody feels good, You go out, you lose to Clemson in week 5. You haven't won in a month, kind of a thing. In that scenario, that could be very tough. But yeah, I don't know that this team has that mental strength to take a loss like that and then bounce back, just because I haven't seen it in a while.
From down here, and obviously you listen to sports radio, you listen to a lot of the TV stations down here, there's a lot of confidence for Miami going into the 2020 season. From an outsider's perspective, you look at what happened at the end of 2019, those 3 straight losses, the loss to FIU, the loss to Duke, and then the loss in the bowl game to Louisiana Tech. Where is the confidence? Because I remember seeing a Miami team that came back against Pitt, decisively beat us in Tallahassee, beat the hell out of Louisville inside Hard Rock Stadium, and then kind of sputtered in the last 3 games. Where is the confidence, judging off what happened at the end of 2019, for there to be so much confidence entering 2020?
It's not 100% analogous. It's not just it's not the same team. It's not the same staff. So just to carry that forward 100% and say what we saw at the end of last season is going to be what we see this season, I think that's faulty. And I also think it's faulty a little bit to be 100% on the other side as well. Of we did have maybe get sold a bill of goods with the offense we were going to run, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback. We've shuttled all of them away. We've changed staff members. We've updated the roster. We got De'Aaron King. We have all these pieces. And I think that a lot of people are looking at the top end of what Lashley and what De'Aaron King have done in the past, and then ascribing that 100% to be what's going to happen here. And I think that the reality is probably a happy medium, maybe 50 or 60% of that. The defense is still going to be strong. The defense has lots of players. You're going to get Bubba Bolden back, who broke his ankle celebrating an interception at Pitt. Terrible thing. Obviously, you lose Gregory Rousseau, but you're loaded at defensive end. You're more athletic and linebacker than you've been in years. You are deep and talented at safety. You have depth and talent, but you need to have development and production at cornerback. So defensively, you're good. You bring in Borregales from FIU as kicker. You got Headley back at punter. You got a plethora of guys who can return punts and kicks. That's cool. On offense, yeah, it's that. So, people are just, like I said, they're looking at the top end of Rhett Lashley calling games and De'Aaron King in 2018 and even the beginning of 19. People are saying, oh, he was bad. No, he just wasn't as transformational in 2018 or 19 as he was in 2018. But, I mean, that was rare air. And people, I think, you obviously want to distance yourself from last season. I think the fan base does, and I think that a lot of people do. And I think that that's where all this optimism comes from, just because we have that new shiny toy in the offense, in the offensive coordinator, and a couple of the coaches and a couple of the players on offense. And you're just really kind of excited for that. But again, I think the reality is hopefully going to be somewhere in that middle. And look, if we get to that kind of unrealistic ceiling that has been talked about, it'll be fun for me. I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, if you get all the way there, whoa.
I think Miami has the talent to win 8 games at least. They should win at least 8 to 9 games without a doubt, talent-wise. And I guess last question before I'll turn things over back to Mark. De'Aaron King, that's the name you've mentioned. It's the name that everyone has been praising. De'Aaron King is going to be the next great quarterback in the lineage of quarterbacks. What will be different from De'Aaron King than what we've seen the last 2 seasons from N'Kosi Perry and from Jaron Williams? What are we going to see differently from De'Aaron King that we haven't seen? Because we've seen N'Kosi Perry lead the comeback in 2018 against FSU. Jaron Williams came up to Tallahassee. He made us look silly in 2019. How will De'Aaron King be different than those guys, and what should we see from him in Miami in 2020?
I mean, the big thing is his ability to run is singular. It's different than any quarterback we've had. And N'Kosi can run, and he ran a lot in high school, but Mark Richt coached it out of him. And you could even see it during games in 2018 when he would want to run and say, my instinct is to go. There's still a clip up from a practice video from a cherry picker of, as a true freshman, N'Kosi Perry just undressing a guy in the hole, shake, shake, gone. And you're like, whoa, this is what this guy can do. And Mark Richt coached it out of him. You could literally see, I want to run. Oh, Jesus, I'm hitting things. I want to run. Coach is going to yell at me. Never mind. You could see that in his mind. And De'Aaron King, however, can and will run. And they're going to call plays for him to run. And he's on a streak of, 15 games with a passing and rushing touchdown. For Miami to be good, that's going to continue. And if you think back, there's not been a quarterback who can run like De'Aaron King for Miami pretty much ever. I mean, you have Derek Crudup, who was my freshman brother in 2000 from Deerfield Beach High School right up the road here. He was, the backup, and he could run. You had Kenny Kelly. I mean, he could run some, but he couldn't even run like De'Aaron King, But you put that in there and you add the element of a QB run. I mean, okay, Malik Rozier scrambled a little bit. Yeah, he did.
Harris, maybe, I'd say. You could.
Who?
Ja'Cory Harris had his.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Ja'Cory Harris was a pocket quarterback.
When he first came in, he ran the ball, and he ran less and less as he
he was like Geno Smith. He was black and kind of quick. He was not a scrambling guy. No, he set the Dade County passing record by sitting there and picking teams apart. They even went out to South Lake Carroll, who started the year as the number 1 team, and they whipped that ass by him sitting in that pocket and dotting them up with his arm. And sure, the game was a little too fast for him when he first got here as a true freshman. And I think that's what you see with everybody. I mean, Jaron Williams did it when the year he redshirted. He even talked about, he would see him pump fake in scrimmages because, oh my God, I didn't think there was going to be a orange jersey there in this scrimmage, but this linebacker he was flowing to the side underneath that route, and oh, whoa, and now I got to run because the timing's off on that throw. I think that was a reactionary thing from Ja'Cory more than a planned thing. But De'Aaron King, I mean, he has a 95-yard kickoff return to his credit as a true freshman. That kind of running ability is going to be a thing that is going to impact games. The kinds of options that we can run, we can just do straight quarterback run and let it be known, yes, he's 5'8", 5'10", 5'9.5". He's not tall, but he's a very good passer. He's a better passer than people give him credit for. And I think that dual nature, that true dual nature of being equally effective as running and passing, that's going to open up a lot. And hopefully, if sometimes you just kind of dream about things, right? And think, oh, I want if this recruit were on our team, or if this, whatever, if I were to get this job or if I would get this promotion, I would do yada, yada, yada. Rhett Lashlee has talked about having played, with SMU and watching Houston on the field because they're in the same conference where they played, whatever. And seeing him when he was working, in between when he's coaching up his own players and just saying, whew, man, if I had that kid on my roster, I would do this, that, and the third. And I hope that he actually wrote some of those things down. And I hope that some of those things come to fruition because, if you've seen it, and like Rhett Lashlee has in person for a couple of years, hopefully, you've already devised some of those things and found some ways to really tap into his talents. But, yeah, I just think that instead of and to the heart of your question, in 2018 with N'Kosi Perry, in 2019 with Jared Williams, I think that the coaching staff, whomever it was, Mark Richt or Dan Enos, as the play caller, I think that they tried to have a scheme and then fit the player to the scheme, even though there might have been a disconnect between the skill set or the proficiency and things like that. Said, this is what I run, and you're going to run this. And I hope that it's going to be the opposite this year, where Lashlee says, this is what you're good at, and we're going to do a lot of that. So it's the inverse kind of a way, building the scheme around the players and not trying to fit the players to the scheme.
When are you guys going to announce your seating capacity? I need to get tickets for the game. I need tickets for family members. So come on, man. When
the Miami Dolphins come to a decision on what it's going to be, because obviously we play in their stadium. That's where we play. It's our home field. It's not our stadium. Everybody knows that. But we're going to abide by whatever their capacity number is. And then it's going to be just consistent for the game day staff and everything. And there's practical reasons for that because, your stadium staff are going to, the parking people, the concessions, the game operations, all of those people, who are setting up, if they're tarping off seats, if they're tarping off rows, sections, things like that, you can do it once and abide by that choice, whatever, for any game that's there. So, hopefully that'll be sometime soon. But yeah, that'll be it.
If you're a betting man, what do you think it's going to be?
If I'm a betting man, I think it's going to be 50% capacity or less. I would say maybe even a little less. I would say maybe if the Dolphins were to, because capacity at that stadium is what, 68, 70? I would say if they said 20, 25, just to put a firm number on it, I think that could be reasonable. So yeah, somewhere in that, if they were to go with a number, I would say 20 to 25. If we're going percentage, I would say somewhere in that 40 to 50% capacity range.
Mark, sorry, buddy, we can't get you down here for the game. Sorry, man.
I can't get in.
I can maybe get you a press pass if you want to be my assistant, but other than that,
the voice of college football.
No, man,
can't get in.
Cam can get you in. I can't get you in.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I have that juice anymore. I called him a couple favors recently, so I got to see if I can go back to the well on that one.
Land found. Mark boosts his ego by only posting the comments that glorify him or his channel. You really don't pay attention, Land found. I post anything that's in any way relevant to the conversation or anything involving college football. The only thing I leave out are your own tit for tat conversations in the live chat.
But I will say that I saw Land found call me know-it-all Cam. And hey, I'm just glad that you know that I know it all. Thanks, buddy.
Perfect. The MAC football conference has canceled its season.
And reportedly, the Big Ten, apparently officials in the Big Ten reportedly are meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of seems like you're just kind of tearing down a building in parts instead of just imploding the whole thing. It just seems... because it's just like a little bit here and a little bit there. Okay, like the MAC says they're going to play in the spring, but, it's going to be conference only and everything, obviously, from what was reported by Brett McMurphy earlier before I got on here and everything. And the other part of it is they have bye games as well, even at the FBS level. And they, when the Big Ten said we're playing conference only, there went all those games. So your Akron, your Toledo, your Bowling Green, your whomever in that conference who had a bye game or maybe two, to make some money to support and, subsidize their athletic department, that money's gone. So what are we going to do? And it's just, it's tough, but yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned. And I think and one of our sports anchors down here in Miami was talking about this, how you look at the ACC moving Florida State, Miami to September. The Big Ten moved Michigan, Ohio State up to October. They want to get these rivalry games in because there is a genuine concern that come November, come flu season, we're going to have round 2 of this. And it's a legitimate scientific concern. So I would be genuinely shocked if we do end up playing a full season of games.
No, ditto. And then, just to be honest, it wouldn't even be round 2 because this curve is not flat. So it would be just another spiking of what is ongoing. And then you add on the seasonal flu on top of, this pandemic that's ongoing now. Yeah, man, it's a thing. And that was the other not concern, but thought I had when I saw Miami, Florida State week 3. It's we're trying to get that in. Trying to play the game. It's just like when, and I've told this story before, but Calvin Ridley, Grandpa Ridley, his senior year of high school, and that was the last year of 19 years, 9 months eligibility cutoff. And he turned 19 years and 9 months in week 4 of the high school season. So Monarch lobbied, and they had games weeks 1, 2, and 3, a bye week 4, and then they played the rest without Calvin Ridley after he aged out of eligibility. And it seems similar, where it's just like, hey, we got to get it in while we can. We're going to play these games while we have Ridley. And it's like, we're going to play this game or these rivalry games while we have the opportunity because, it's not – I agree with Jason. I logically cannot come to the conclusion that we're going to play a full season this year. I'm just not there.
Which is fine by us because we're scheduled to play Clemson November 21st. So if that game is canceled, that's fine. Cancel November 14th. They're on.
Hey, man.
Maybe they can be rescheduled for like 4 years from now.
For never.
Give you guys some time to.
For never.
Florida State and Clemson are in the same division, so they play annually. So
we're no divisions this year in the ACC.
Well, this year, correct?
Yeah, let's just.
Although the foundation of the schedule is still, even though I don't know how the decision was made for us to add Clemson, NC State, and Louisville, and take Duke off of our schedule. Look, it is what it is. We got to play the games we got to play. I'm not running from Clemson. Again, I respect all opponents and I fear none. And I know that they've whooped our ass the last couple of times. But I'm just like, so we're going to play the other 5 of the 6 non-Miami coastal teams. We're going to play. And then that one we're not. And we're going to add in. It's just like,
on our side of the spectrum, we're not playing Syracuse and Boston College. But yet we're going to end up playing at Notre Dame, and then we're playing North Carolina is coming in.
You've got the toughest schedule in the ACC, Florida State.
I will say this. I like how they scheduled us to start with Georgia Tech and Samford. So I like that. It started off 2-0 going into Miami. From there, it's Miami, Notre Dame, North Carolina, at Louisville, Pitt, who by that point you don't know if it's going to be the Pitt from a couple of years ago or a decent Pitt team. Then we've got at NC State, Clemson, Virginia, at Duke. There's a potential of a downhill slalom on our side, so I'm genuinely concerned on our spectrum.
And the thing with Pitt is you don't know what they're going to do, not even year to year, but week to week.
Right.
Because they got blown out, or was it Syracuse, who got blown out the week before that they beat Clemson? You know what I mean? Like they could be
Syracuse.
Exactly. Okay, that was a Syracuse. But even when they're still just losing 20-17, 21-14, and then all of a sudden they put up 52 in this win. I mean, like, who knows what they're going to do?
And we don't know if, for example, if Derek King, God forbid, tests positive for COVID-19 or James Blackman for FSU or something like that. You don't know what's going to happen week by week. That's why this season, to me, is already a wash before we've even played our first game.
Are y'all starting Blackman again?
What's that?
Are you going to start him again?
Yeah. What option do we have?
And see, that's the thing. I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know.
James Blackman will start the year at starting quarterback because Jordan Travis is a good runner, but I seriously, and I say this, God bless the man. I don't know if he can actually throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. And our other two options are two true freshmen, one who literally just got to Tallahassee this summer. So right now, your one option is James Blackman.
Got it.
And we'll see what happens. I think he will be better. I think we're going to be in a better spot than we have been in the past couple seasons. Now that we finally kicked Kendall Brow's sorry ass out of Tallahassee, but who knows? We'll see what happens come September 26th. That will be the first true test for Florida State.
When I heard that y'all were operating without a playbook last year, I cackled. I just laughed. That was, I mean, it was like, obviously I know people who went to Florida State and who root for Florida State and everything. They're like, no, Cam, it's the new wave and blah, blah. I just said, you really believe that? You really? Okay. All right. I mean.
Sort of like I tackled when you guys lost to FIU.
I mean, that was terrible.
It was. As somebody who grew up here in South Florida and grew up going to games in the Orange Bowl, it was depressing to watch that happen because it was watching Miami fans leave. It was reminiscent almost of seeing what happened in the final game against Virginia. It was almost like depression of seeing what had happened at that point because you had no business losing to FIU.
When Jaron threw that first interception, when we tried to run that RPO and the linebacker didn't move, he just said, no, you're going to try to throw the slant. I'm going to be here and you're going to hit me between the 5 and the 3 and I'm going to catch it. When he threw that first interception, I said, oh no. I said, oh boy. And and people were like, and I said, don't start this. Let's come back right now because if this portends for the future, as I'm live tweeting the game, people saying, oh, Cam, you're just being negative. It's one play. I said, that's not one play. That's like the foundational play of our offense. And if they have it, we just put it out on the Jumbotron in center field and just said, hey, or what the Jumbotron's in right field. But if we put it up there and said, FIU, we're running the RPO slant. Don't bite on it. I'm throwing it there. They would have been less prepared than they were. It was.
And that's what's frustrating as a Florida State grad is the side of seeing that's the Miami team who I was at that game in Tallahassee, seeing you guys kick our butts.
Yeah.
Coming down here the following week, the final home game inside Hard Rock that season, watching Jaron Williams set records against Louisville, kicking Louisville up and down the field, and then you watch Miami disappoint in 3 straight games to end the season. That's where, from our side, it's how is this team so confident entering 2020 with what happened at the end of 2019?
Well, I mean, and on the flip side, I think that we overlooked FIU and figured, you know what? We don't need to be creative. We don't need to open the playbook. We can just run our staples and we'll get out of here with a 28-point, 35-point victory. We're more talented than they are, blah, blah, blah. And they, to their credit, they were prepared for the staples that we ran, and they had some counteracting for those, obviously. The other thing, they did that Bush League fake cramp shit. Anytime that we had a first down or a chunk play, invariably, the whole entire game. And I'm not saying that's the reason that we lost, but that was such Bush League. I mean, it just was. But when you're an inferior team with inferior talent, you have to do those kind of things to mitigate that difference. So I completely understand why Butch Davis did it. It was still Bush League. It was completely and totally Bush League, and I will call it that because that's what it was. And again, we did lose. They completed the mission. They beat us, and everything. But yeah, that part of things was just. I mean, it was Bush League.
More importantly, they gave the media Popeyes after the game. So, and of course, I will be a whore to anyone who Popeyes for free. So,
I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, even though there's not really a Popeyes that close to Marlins Park. All right, think about it. The closest
one is actually off of 183rd. Yeah.
Right. No. There's one very close to Hard Rock.
Right.
It's right by, I used to get my hair cut. I mean, when I had hair, I went to the barbershop that was right there in a little strip mall that my homeboy owned, and it's right next to the Popeyes, which is right next to Carroll City. Yeah. But next to Marlins Park.
No, God, no. I think that might actually be the closest one because the other closest one is down off 152nd, down like way even past the falls.
Yeah, it might be. It's It's not close, but
Mark is sitting there in Connecticut going, what the hell are these two talking about?
No, this is what I'm about to say is that Cam's not aware that you are contractually obligated to mention Popeyes every time you come on here.
hey, man, there's nothing wrong with that.
Give me the 2-piece spicy with the Cajun rice. I got to get a little ranch dressing to go on top of the rice. Get the extra biscuit. Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, look, you know it's going to be 10 to 15 on spicy, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it's always 10 to 15 every time you go in, but you know what? I'm going to wait for the spicy because the regular.
We do at our station, we do fried chicken Friday where I will go get the Popeyes and then come to the station. I will literally see the chicken there and I will see that the chicken is there waiting and they'll still go, oh, it's going to be 20 minutes. And I'll sit there and go, what the hell? It's literally, I'm staring at the damn chicken right there.
When I was a teacher at Miramar, I used to actually go to that one in Carroll City because it's the closest one to the school when we had like course family lunchtime around like a performance or whatnot. So I called them the day before, you know, I would do the things, be like, okay, yeah, I need 150 boxes. And matter of fact, actually they do fundraisers too. So the basketball team, they would sell Popeyes after school pretty much every day from that same location and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, look, ain't nothing wrong with it, but if it's going to be 15 for the spicy, I got headphones and I got a phone. So I mean, yeah, go ahead, just, I'm gonna pay for it now. Let me get my sweet tea so I can get the refill before I leave out. And then, yeah, that's fine.
But you're literally staring at the damn spicy chicken. It's right there.
I
there.
Look, you don't have to explain it to me. I get it. I understand it. It's a rite of passage.
I'm at the damn one on University, right off University and Taft, right here near my house in Pembroke Pines, and I'm literally staring at it, and there's nobody else in the damn restaurant. They're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be 20 minutes."
All right. But I think when Popeyes does that, they test if you really want the Popeyes or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, because I could say I got this Popeyes, I got this spicy right here, or I could say it's going to be 15 for spicy. Right. And I'm going to see if you're really about this Popeyes life. Because if you're not really about that Popeyes life, what are you going to say? I'll take regular. If you take regular, I don't trust you. You're a cop. You are the feds. No, I don't want any parts of that. Because if I got to wait 15 for spicy, I'm going to wait 15 for spicy.
Mark, you don't eat spicy chicken, do you? You eat the regular chicken.
I eat the regular chicken. Let's also understand that because of the part of the country that I live in, and even when I visit those parts of the country that have Popeyes, sure, I pass Popeyes. I'm typically in a position where I'm with a company that would like to go frequent better establishments than Popeyes. I believe I've had Popeyes once.
Better?
Whoa.
Yes, that's a value.
When you're with a young lady, you don't want to go to Popeyes. You frequent better places than that.
Okay, I mean, if you're going for a sit down, yes, I will say, however, that me and Bay have been to
Well, it's not that you never go eat, just grab something to eat if you're with your significant other, but of course you do. But so you're telling me that Popeyes is not just a different version of KFC?
Whoa.
I'm just asking. Again, I've been there one time, and I just don't. It was not a memorable experience.
No.
I didn't foresee these conversations, Jason, that I would have to evaluate Popeyes chicken.
First off,
it was just a day in my life, and I had Popeyes chicken, and I moved on from there.
First of all, do not ever put Popeyes and that damn Colonel Sanders in the same sentence. That's number one.
Jason, unless you're talking about KFC in the islands, because in Jamaica or Barbados or Bahamas, KFC over there is different than KFC here. It's more like Popeyes. But I'm saying if you're talking about Jamaican KFC, that's the only time I will let that comparison happen.
I'm talking about the KFC in Broward County.
Oh yeah, nah.
I'm talking about the KFC off University 10 minutes from my house that I damn sure will never go to because there's a Popeyes literally half a block down the street. So that's number one.
No, there is right there on University.
Right off there. That's number one. Number two, Mark, I will tell you for a bona fide reason. The day I knew that I was going to marry the woman that I married was when she said, "Let's go to Popeyes." That's when I knew.
That was the
and I knew I was going to divorce her for a different reason later on, 6 years later.
No, but I mean, like,
we were going to get married.
When she said enough of Popeyes.
No, that was a different issue. But anyway,
but look, I mean, yeah, if your old lady says, "Hey, let's get some Popeyes," oh, that's a love story.
Totally.
Like, I mean, I'm being like, and this is not exaggeration for comedic effect. That is like for real. Like, that's a real one right there. And I'm very upset because me and X-Bay years ago went to New Orleans and like for vacation, everything was wonderful. Stayed in the French Quarter. a block and a half away from the original Popeyes, and I was concerned with, all the gourmet meals that we're going to have and all the other experiences, and I didn't look up where the original Popeyes was, and so we were there in New Orleans for 5 days, around the corner, and I literally went to Canal Street, and as I was like, okay, when I got in, it was in the morning, like, okay, where should I go? And they were like, oh, go to Canal, bust this right, and go to this place for breakfast. Cool, and the breakfast was amazing, it was incredible. Oh my God. But they could have told me go to Canal and bust this left, and a half a block right there is the original Popeyes. You ain't got to say no more. And so, like, I didn't realize that until I left, and so I'm very upset. So when I go back to New Orleans, the first thing I'm going to do is check into that same hotel, go over the half block to Canal Street, bust that left, the original Popeyes, and see what they talk about.
So a little over 10 years ago, I was there to cover a Dolphins-Saints preseason game. Might have been a little drunk on the French Quarter, might have had a few drinks that might have been filled up, and by a few, I mean about 20 or 25, but that's a different note. I was bigger.
All day.
I was about 300 pounds at the time. I could fill up. I had room in there and whatnot. So I was drunk. We may have stumbled to that Popeyes. I may have gotten a big head and said, let me get the spicy, and maybe not realize that kind of how you said the spicy KFC in the islands is a little bit different. The spicy in New Orleans Popeyes is a little bit different than the spicy here in Hollywood, Pembroke Pines. So I may have shed a tear. I may have cried a little bit. It may have knocked my white ass out a little bit. But you learn, you live, and you learn, so that when I go back for the Florida State LSU game in 2022, I'll know that there I have to get the mild. It's you live and you learn.
Yeah, but I mean, I was very hurt that I wasn't able to go there and everything, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to rectify that error. Also, I do need to get to the original Chick-fil-A. Wait, no. The Waffle House in no. There's a Waffle House in Georgia. It's called the Dorf House, the original one, and they like serve sit down, and they got like mac and cheese and collard greens and like all kinds of yes, it's called the Dorf House. It's just south of Atlanta, the original Waffle House location, and but they serve like a full authentic Southern menu, bro. I gotta get there.
I'm a fan of Waffle House.
Yeah. Put that on the list.
Waffle House.
I may have been drunk a few times at the Waffle. The Waffle House in Tallahassee is where I was drunk as a skunk and met Mark Curry from Hanging with Mr. Cooper fame, and then we took Mark Cooper to a party. So Mark Cooper was playing a gig in Tallahassee. He was high as you know what at the Waffle House on Tennessee Street. I was drunk as a skunk, and he's like, let's go party. We took Mark Curry to a house party in Tallahassee, and it was one of those times where you're like, it was that time, and then it was time drunk playing beer pong with Dan Marino in here down in Plantation, and I'm like, we're sitting there drunk, and I'm like going, I'm playing beer pong with Dan Marino, who was also a little intoxicated. Popeyes, you should sponsor Cam Underwood's show here. You should sponsor our show with FSU. We need sponsors. That's all.
Yes. Considering the name is dropped more than James Blackman's is on our Florida State show. Literally.
I will not turn that down. There's a Popeyes around the corner from where I live now, and everything. So, I mean,
we actually do the Florida State Miami preview show from Popeyes. If you sponsor us, Cam Underwood and I will do it from a Popeyes down here. You just hook us up. Hook me up with food. You can pay Cam. I just want food. That's all.
I need to put together a video montage of how many times, Jason, you've mentioned and talked about Popeyes.
Popeyes.
Oh, my word.
I may go get Popeyes.
And send it to him.
I may go get some Popeyes for lunch.
That's what I was saying. There's one around the corner. Like, I might have to slide now.
I'm just saying. I want that chicken in me. That's all I'm saying.
When I've left this set a couple times and gone off camera, that's my daughter heading out to get us some little breakfast, but it's not going to be a Popeyes.
It's 12:30. You're eating breakfast? Come on, man.
Yeah, I work all hours. I get up 15 minutes before Cam and I jump on here, and I'm famished at this point. And yes, breakfast is the first meal of the day, regardless of when that meal comes.
And look, we don't breakfast shame around here. I will do breakfast for dinner.
Oh, yes.
Come on.
Do you remember Shoney's back in the day? That's what I remember for breakfast. They don't have those around here anymore.
A what?
A Shoney's.
Shoney's.
Yeah, no, they don't have those down here anymore. There used to be one over by Nova off of
on the way of Friendly's.
I live right by there in the Cecil Collins building before you used to jump out of that building before you got away.
Cecil, the Diesel Collins building. Yeah. And that's where the one Waffle House around in Broward County is.
Right there.
Right there also. Thanks.
So Jason turned this over to me about 25 minutes ago, I think. When you made your
comment. And then mentioned Popeyes, and then, Popeyes happened. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
So this is what I have, and you guys could stay on here. Hey, I could leave, and you guys could go on for hours. It's up to you. Certainly, we got 233 people on the line. Regardless, Cam, I would ask, regardless of how much time you have, that we respect the super chat comment and question here and recognize Dwayne Baker 305. Cam equals infinite knowledge, period. Great content. Mark, Cam, what do you think the ceiling for Cam Harris will be? The king running the show. I think he runs like 1,100, 500. Oh, rushing, receiving, I'm guessing. 17 to 20 touchdowns. Your thoughts? Thanks.
I think that's the super high end, especially because De'Aaron King is going to run, so he's going to cannibalize some of those opportunities. And I would just hope that we're throwing the ball to some receivers or tight ends so that he's not hitting 500 yards receiving, because 500 yards receiving, if I just click around again on cfbstats.com, which is free, 500 yards receiving, we had one player hit that last year. Brevin Jordan was 5 yards away. Mike Harley was 15 yards away. The year before that, we had one player hit that. The year before that, we had one player hit that, but another player 23 yards away. The year before that, we had 1, 2, 3 players hit that, but they were all receivers, and Amon Richards, Stacey Coley, and Njoku. The year before that, we had 3 guys hit it, but they all were in the 600-yard range, and they were all wide receivers. So to say that a running back's going to get 500 receiving, I think is just I don't see that kind of a thing happening. I would say somewhere in the range of 1,000 yards. I mean, assuming we play a full season, 1,000 yards to 1,100 rushing, I think could be towards the upper end of what we can see. Because again, I think that we're going to rotate in some of those younger guys, and De'Aaron King is also going to run. I would say maybe somewhere in the 150 to 200 yard range receiving for Cam Harris would be a thing for him, just because if we're going to throw the guys out of the backfield, I would rather throw it to Jalen Knighton or Donald Chaney Jr. And then again, I would hope that most of those receiving yards, instead of being quick screens and things, would be going, or to running backs, would be going to receivers. And if you're looking at what De'Aaron King did at Houston, when they ran those screens, those were for what's his name? Number 5, Marquez Stevenson, the fast wide receiver. They would run tunnel screens for him. They would run bubbles for him. You know what I'm saying? So maybe you're going to take some of those yards and put it elsewhere. I would say, I mean, if you're 12 or more touchdowns total for Cam Harris, you're in a good spot. So yeah, I would say somewhere around that 1,000 yards, maybe 1,300 total yards with 12 or more touchdowns. I think that's more realistic, and I think more what we're going to see. De'Aaron King has 50 touchdowns in 11 games. Sign me up. Sign me up.
He posted 50 in what I'm guessing was 13 games a couple of years ago, of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to 50 and 11. So you're talking pretty much 4.5 a game by himself.
Just want to quickly address something that Cam was alluding to when Jason asked you about expectations and the confidence that you have that Miami will improve. I'm all about probabilities and trying to measuring, okay, additions, subtractions, okay, what did they do last year? Who've they added? Who's been subtracted from the roster? And looking at the schedule. And if you really look at Miami's disappointing 2019, there were 2 games they won that they could have lost. Pitt and Virginia. I'm going to discount Western Michigan, even though it was a close game by score because of the wide talent gap. I'm going to take into consideration Pitt, a 4-point win, and Virginia, 1-score win. Those are the 2 games Miami could have lost that they won. But every game Miami lost, they could have won. Every game they were in the game, could have won the game very easily. So there's much more ceiling there than there is for regression or even the status quo, in my estimation, for Miami, and especially considering the guy we just mentioned, De'Aaron King. The quarterback play is going to just be so much more consistent, better decision-making, and more dynamic on the ground.
It's not just Miami, too, and I'll also say that we've had the same issue at Florida State. This goes back to 2015. And, that Georgia Tech team, that was a 3-9 Georgia Tech team we had no business losing to, and that block kick they returned to for a touchdown. The following year, we had no business losing to North Carolina. And it goes on, so on and so forth. And I feel like that's a problem that both Florida State and Miami have to get over. It's almost like you look at Miami, they lost to Florida. They should have beat Florida. I was rooting for Miami. I think Miami should have beat Florida there. Miami should have beat North Carolina in their next game and whatnot. Miami should have beat, like you said, they should have beat Virginia Tech. They should have beat Georgia Tech. They should have beat FIU. it's kind of like Miami had that loss, and it was like, oh crap, here we go again. And then they get a couple wins, then it's like they lose to Georgia Tech. Oh, here we go again. Then they beat Florida State, and so on and so forth. We had the same thing where we lost to Boise State, we lost to Virginia, we lost to Wake Forest. Games we shouldn't have really lost, and then we end up losing. Both teams, if they're going to get back to that Florida State Miami that we know and that we deserve as Florida State fans and as Miami fans, they just have to get over that. They have to get over that. If you lose a game, if Miami loses to Clemson, if we lose to Miami, if we lose to Notre Dame, yes, you just can't let it continue and let it be that first, let it boulder down that hill. You just have to get over it. And like Cam said, Cam hit the nail on the head. If Miami loses to Florida State, don't let it build and go into that Clemson game. Use that bye week and go from there.
There is one two-part question that we can either take on today or we can table this for another time because it's a legacy question that can be asked at any point. So I'm not going to assume that either one of you, although I believe I can, in Cam's case, assume that he believes that Miami is the better program today and the better program of all time. But I would never disrespect a guest. Let's say we had an Alabama contributor on and a Vanderbilt contributor to say, okay, Vanderbilt contributor, I want you to defend why your program's better today and better all time. Obviously, they couldn't take that stance. But considering we're talking Florida State and Miami, I'm going to make the assumption that each of you could make the case that your program is better today and better all time, and would love to hear that discussion at some point.
I would say let's table that because it's been an hour and 40 minutes. So I'm absolutely getting ready to go get some lunch. Probably that Popeyes.
Sounds good.
But yeah, that's a thing. That's a conversation that we can actually have.
Let's do it maybe before the September 26th.
There's plenty of time between now and then.
Good stuff. All right, guys. This has been a pleasure. Jason, thank you so much for dropping in. We appreciate it. Cam, as always, makes this happen each and every week, talking Miami football. It would not be this standard or this popular in any way, shape, or form without you, Cam. Keep in mind, everyone, that Cam is going to be absent for 2 weeks. There's nothing wrong. We've not dissolved the the relationship, nor have we. Is there anything wrong in regards to Cam's life? He is taking 2 weeks off to enjoy and kick back and have a good time.
Exactamundo. But while I'm gone, the website still be running. So we're online at stateoftheu.com. At the State of the U on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. I'll probably still be tweeting about some video games, which I'm actually kind of watching over there as I go. And yeah, so it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. And I'll see you guys.
And before we sign off, I want to acknowledge again Dwayne Baker 305, Chuck C, Will Sky. We also have Ronan Jones and Chugmo Beer, who contributed to the super chat. Thank you so much. And again, I'm going to add to the list of viewer to-do list. Of course, like the video, as Jason encourages everyone each and every week.
Am I the only one here on the UM chat? The guy with the floor?
You are it. And I would like to remind everyone, as I mentioned earlier in the show, please, you've got a social media influence out there that I don't have, that Jason doesn't have, that Cam doesn't have, so you can reach people that we don't. So let them know that we talk Florida State football each and every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And we talk Miami football here each and every typically Saturday, but that's why you have to hit the bell for the notifications once you subscribe to know when we go live. All right, Jason. Thank you so much, sir.
I'm going to do this since Cam's gone.
You'll give it one of those. Yes. Now we're trash talking and we're going to give it one of those. Yes. All right. See everyone soon. Again, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time with my guy, Jason, Logan Robinson, and the crew. Big Game James as well, of course.